I'm just starting. I just started the live stream. So, yeah, just started the stream. So basically, what I'm going to do, again, I streamed on Friday. There was a few of us in there. Ended up being a really good stream. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't record it. Um, because, yeah, we covered a ton. And it's going to be a little hard for me to kind of go over everything again, to be honest with you. But we'll try. We'll do our best. There's been a little bit of update. I mean, obviously we have a few more days of information than we had on Friday, but unfortunately nothing like super concrete that's really helpful in my opinion. We did close above that weekly level that I was looking at on Friday, but it's just barely. And again, to me, it wasn't giving me like the resolution that I really want to see. Get to that in a minute. So I guess, I mean, I'm on a 5-minute chart. So I guess we can kind of look at things locally here because I think that there's gonna be like there could potentially be another interesting trade setup, and I'll go over the one that I took this morning that I actually shared in Discord, so you guys won't be able to see this. But the people watching the stream should be able to see it. Let me check my stream cam. Yeah. So basically, like going back through, I gave a pretty detailed setup of, I mean, it's a typical SFP trade, but as far as like targets and what I thought could happen after that, I was pretty specific about it, so you can actually see it here. And we hit the target, the first target that I was looking for. It looks like we're getting pretty close to actually coming back to actually hit it, which is good. So if you missed that first one, then it's giving you another chance. But I basically, if you go back and look, I mean, for a while now, and I said this a few weeks ago. I talked about it kind of a lot on Friday, but looking for the second SFP, right? So you've been getting a SFP, which we got here, swing failure pattern, of this local low, and you know I'll probably end up doing a video on this actually if people want to kind of talk through SFPs in more detail, but an SFP of this low, it's significant enough for me to want to take a trade. You can see it worked out really well, especially coming into. It's kind of hard to see because this is like this low ended up being the value area low of this range. So zooming out, this range right here, you can see where your value area low is. So it's this line here, and if you zoom in, it's literally the low. So when I see that, when I see this low getting ran, I'll circle it just so you can see it. And I'm already thinking SFP, which in chat above that, I called it, like I said it before. I hate saying I called it because I don't want to sound like this fucking Twitter, you know what I mean? But like I was looking for this trade before it happened. And this is very obvious. And we've been getting a lot of SFPs lately, and they are damn near free money. It's like it's one of those easy trades that you can see, you prepare for it, and they have a very high hit rate lately. Very high hit rate. But the big SFPs that have been happening lately are the second. So it's like the SFP of the SFP. That's been like where you get your substantial moves. So that is still on my mind, and you could probably have read that paragraph. Again, you guys can see it that are on the stream with me, but if you're watching the replay, you could have read that paragraph. But anyway, looking for basically just a sweep of this low. Nice long wicks. You have kind of like a double wick here, right? I mean, arguably, like you did a couple candles later, you came back and ran this low. So is this like the second SFP of this? I would say no, not what I'd be looking for. This is very close together, but I guess I mean, in a way, yes, but not what I would classify. But at the moment, I have took along once we reclaim this SFP line right here, so your previous low, and I was targeting. So if, again in chat, VWAP was lining up really nicely in this golden pocket. That to me is very obvious. Which, by the way, why I took profit here. So I was saying 3250-ish, kind of like wanting to see the reaction. And it was literally at the top of this green candles where I sold. And again, kind of funny. Nice reaction off of that. Wasn't really anticipating or looking for that, but it was more like I got close enough. Don't like I like to front run my targets. I don't always front run them that much, but part of the part of the problem with this too, well, it's not a problem, but like part of the reason why I took profit here, I chart on Bybit, but I trade on Femex. So there's a price difference, and it's been fluctuating all morning. It's anywhere from $5 to $20 difference, right? So for me, I look at this and say, okay, we're nearing my target, and like so basically close my trade, or I hit take profit one, so I took 40% off. I take 40% off. Let me check. Yeah, took 40% off. And I mean at the moment, still looking for higher. I think that like we're very close to coming up and hitting this anyway. It's again not it's literally 12 or what, not that much, $18 or whatever to 256. But the problem is like again on if especially if you're charting on one exchange or you're charting on one exchange trading on another, you have to account for that, and it's a lot harder. Like that, which is why again I took profit here. But even on Bybit, sometimes if you're trading on Bybit, it might tag the 618 exactly. It might slightly front run that, which we've seen a lot happen, where it'll literally front run the 618 because there's a lot of people wanting to trade this, right? This is a very obvious level. Like a lot of people are wanting to trade this. So it's like here, so there you go. There's my alert. Sorry for the loud noise, but it literally just hit the 618 just now. So you'd be out of this, or you would have taken profit. If you didn't take profit here, when I said I was hitting my first TV1, you would probably be taking it here. Nice confluence with VWAP. You can see like there's some people wanting to trade this level, right? Very obvious level. But again, from here, I take profit one. I'm still long. And if this thing is going to push up, fantastic, right? This is great. I am still, however, thinking the possibility that we do come down here and hit this untapped daily. So like we get closer and closer, right? So there's this untapped daily here at 29,884. Man, that would be really cool. It would be nice to, at some point, you know, maybe tomorrow or later this week or something, who knows, if we do come and take this low yet again, probably get a ton of people really bearish, probably see a lot of shorts into this level. And again, I would never preset anything here trying to plan for an SFP, but I definitely would have an alert here, which I do. You see the little, I don't know if you can see this alarm clock or whatnot, but I have an alert here in case this low gets ran again, because that's basically what I would be looking for. The same thing here on this low. I was looking for either one of these two levels. Value area low makes a ton of sense, right? Makes a lot of sense that like you would see a reaction off of that level. If not there, this daily would have been awesome because it would have cleaned both these levels essentially. And if you see an SFP off of that, I would feel, I would be a lot more bullish locally than I am at the moment. What do I want to see right now to see like to look for continuation to the upside? For me, it's very simple. It's flipping VWAP into support. So it's getting back above VWAP and holding that level. Ultimately, you have this really nice downtrend line again, kind of forming this descending triangle. If you zoom out a bit, kind of got a lot going on. I can probably delete some of this stuff now. But I mean here, so like 618, we talk about people wanting to do business at that level, right? Talking about we want to be trading golden pocket. Look at this bad boy. Literally from your high to your low, which by the way, this was the 618 from this low to high. You talk about perfection. Okay, low, high, 618, that's your low. High, low, 618, that's your high. How crazy is that? I mean, we're not that surprised. I would say if you're in VIP, you're not should be that surprised. But like again, very nice confluence. You have this basically the descending triangle that's kind of forming here that I think it's starting to get a bit noticeable. And again, sorry, you can tell I've been trading quite a bit, so I kind of have a lot of shit going on here. But looking at, you have a very nice trend line, descending resistance, and essentially be looking for a push outside of this at some point. Again, that's gonna that looks very obvious to me. But I would be very careful about a fake out. from here. So again, false breakout essentially, and then we run the low. By the way, while I'm on this, but what the hell? TradingView, by the way, there used to be an auto button here forever, and I think they like got rid of it or something, and it's really irritating because now I have to like manually try to reset the chart. So anyway, it's really annoying. The measured move for this, by the way, if we did actually break down from this, the measured move, which is beautiful in my opinion, puts you right in this green zone, which I haven't got here yet. But this would be amazing. It'd basically be a back test of your macro range low. Your macro range low, and this is going to look really bad because I got a lot of stuff going on here. I don't know. Maybe I should do it on a different chart. Yeah, this is like going to look crazy. But basically, this multi-year range that we were in, when we are 28K to 65K, like that, like an all-time high, like basically this massive range that we spent a lot of time in. So we have reclaimed that, right? You can see again, this is like, I'm really sorry about this, but like we can, you can see that we've clearly, we're above it. So a back test of that is essentially like what that measured move would look like. It would be a back test of that to see if that flips into support now, right? So again, like technically that would be a very bullish pullback if that ends up holding a support. Feel like a lot of people probably forgot about that level because it's a level that's very old at this point, but in my opinion still incredibly relevant, because if we start trading back in that multi-year range, then you could expand. My expectation would be like you could expand your targets to the upside. Like what that would say is that we do have a fair amount of potential room that like Bitcoin could run, right? So low time frame, just to kind of wrap this up, again, we're pushing into VWAP. See if we end up actually flipping into support. I don't really care too much. Like this isn't very exciting for me at the moment, although I'm long, so like I should be excited. But this is very low time frame stuff. Not really that concerned about this particular area. But again, if this ends up being the low, where would I get more excited about? Like having caught of like what could be very major low. If we get above, for me I said 30,800, and I didn't even see this, but this is funny. So the expansion, the one at 618 is actually at 30,000, just below 30,800. If you zoom out, which again I just ruined everything, I have to keep resetting it. So if somebody like figures out a better way or like get this auto button back, I'd be greatly appreciative of that. But basically, if we do come up and take this high out, hold above, right, we would be breaking this descending trend line, which I mean, trend lines, again, I'm not like super in love with trend lines, but they are valuable. I'm more of a horizontal kind of guy, but in this instance, like the people who trade trend lines, which a lot of people do, basically taking this high and a reclaim back above this is old level, by the way, but like a reclaim above this, getting outside of the value area high again. So how cool would that be? Basically we came back down, tested the value area low, perfect support. Now if we can flip value area high, get outside of this range value again, then for me that's probably good enough signal that as long as this level holds, that we'll be looking for new highs. That's the way I would be looking at that. So above 30,800 would feel pretty good. And then, above that, probably be targeting about 32K, something like that, somewhere around there. So any questions so far on low time frame? So like what we've been talking about this morning, essentially, for those of you who've been in chat, like any questions? It's very, like, to me, the S&P, like, I've talked about that at length. And it's probably one of the most talked about trade setups that I do talk about in chat. So, like, that should be pretty straightforward by now. But if it's not, that's okay. Happy to answer questions. But again, I guess to wrap that up, I'm not looking for miracles off of this level because it's not a major low, or it's not a major level that was put in some time ago. For me, time is important. Time is like, I like to see these pivots, these low pivots coming on like major time scales, you know, you're talking like your weeks and months, like those types of moves typically give you a lot more follow through when you run those highs and lows. This is very local. So off of here, I'm expecting like I'm not surprised whatsoever that price is doing what it's doing right now. But I'm really only looking from here to here. So like I said, so anything above here is fantastic. More money on the table, that's great. But I'm happy just to literally get here to here. That's all I'm looking for. That's all I care about. And then I'm just remaining, like the rest I'm remaining long for now. And I don't have like a hard plan, take profit too, because I don't plan on doing anything else today. So I will be like actively managing this. And again, like I made enough off this trade that I'm good. So whatever happens from here is great. It's all I was looking for. So again, any questions before I move on? No questions?
Oh, good.
All right. I don't know, Dave, maybe we'll talk about Link. You want to talk about Link at the end?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, Bitcoin, very, again, to me, very, like, this has been relatively easy price action to trade, I would argue. Fibs, which I talk about at length and a lot more than probably people might want to hear, but this is, I mean, this is literally why. Like, this is incredibly technical price action, very technical. I don't care what anybody says, but it's working out really well. And then kind of like the SFP, again, like the SFP trades have been very good, and you're seeing right now, like kind of like the outcome of that. Like this is looking pretty good. But again, 5-minute chart, we're looking at low time frames, so don't expect miracles. But like we could very well be like a significant low, which would be great. I wouldn't be opposed to that. So I'm trying to think if I want to switch gears, if I want to just come back to Bitcoin and talk about like high times. I guess I should maybe switch. I'm not even sure if this is the chart again. Like I probably going to delete some of this just so I can make things a little bit more clear. But kind of what I like, all I'm really going to say is that like if I walk through what has happened. So this is the range, by the way, that I'm talking about when I talk about the multi-years. Let me turn off Ichimoku just for a second. So like when I talk about the multi-year range that we spent in between 28K and basically all-time highs, like look how much time we spent here. Your low, you look at these wicks, very substantial low. We came back here last year, mid last year, put in a nice month-long range here before we broke down and basically made new lows, right? We tried to hold this level as support. We couldn't. Put in this range, big breakdown. Now, what happened? Prices come back up again, right? We came back up earlier this year in April, ultimately couldn't hold that level, so maybe it's good if I actually just put the level there. I'll just mark it as key level so you can see. So this is your macro range low, okay? This is really gonna annoy me, this alert, by the way, but I'm sorry, I need that alert there. So again, purple line, this is your macro range low, so major support, right? I mean, look at like just look at the moves that you got off. This is a massive support area. You zoom in, price came down. I'll actually delete this right now. Actually, maybe I shouldn't have. It's really irritating. Anyway, came back down, put in a range, tried to hold this key level as support, couldn't, and just boom. Look at that. Massive move to the downside. And now we're back above again. So what level would I like to see held? It's really this level. Is this 28.8? Does it have to? No. I do think that we actually could pull back. I wouldn't be shocked if we pulled back a bit more than that, but I really wouldn't want to see price spend too much time around here, which is like 28K. I think what would be very nice technically is basically a pullback into this key level again and flip that into support. So you can see on this breakout to the first time, it kind of washes out on the daily. But to me, this is a very, very, very big level on high time frames. I don't care too much about what happened here. What I would like to see is if we do get that pullback, I want to see this hold. And if we see this hold and show strength off of this level, which basically you can see here is the value area high of this range that we're putting in, right? So we kind of have this big range that we've been putting in since March. Arguably, that's how I look at it. Decent confluence with the key level, again, the macro value area low. It would be cool if we came down and actually flip this into support. If you go to a weekly candle, right? So this was the weekly level that I was looking at here. I deleted it because it's not, to me, it's not relevant anymore. But this old weekly level, we closed above last week, which to me is good. I wanted to see a little bit, I wanted to see the close be a bit higher. But the fact is we close above it. It looks like there's nothing wrong with this weekly candle. In fact, like kind of like what, it's just kind of like a nice view, to be honest. Because it wouldn't surprise me at all either when you have a massive candle like this to get some kind of retracement of this candle, right? So it's like it doesn't have to just continue to go straight up from here. Obviously, that'd be nice. But if we did pull back, which you can read this. So look at, like, you just read what my text says, okay? So, and this kind of shows you what I think about this particular level, right? So this is the value area low. So this is your macro value area low. This is this entire price action, right? But it's the value area low volume wise of that. So that's why that level to me is relevant. But that SFP that I'm talking about is this SFP right here. Here. So, and this is what I would call, like, this to me is a more significant low than here, which is the one that we just played, right? So hopefully you can kind of see the difference. Like, this is a much more pronounced low, and a lot more time has passed since we've revisited this levels. And like when that tends to happen, I think you get a lot more people putting stops underneath, right? We start to, if you look at this, you look at market structure, if we take this out, people are going to get really bearish. It's like, oh shit, okay, we ended up taking this. Well, it must mean that we're going to zero. You know, it's like typical behavior. It's not that surprising. But to me, I look at this level and say, hey, like this is a way more significant low than the low that we just played. So like if we did SFP here, again, I would never preset a trade assuming that we are going to SFP that. That is a mistake. I mean, you do what you want to do, but I will never do that. What I have instead is an alert here. Hopefully I'm here and awake. But this to me is a very substantial low. If we did SFP this, I would think that that could have the potential to be a major, major low. And I think that if that ended up being an SFP off of this level, that we I would say odds are that we're going to at least push probably up to 31K again. If not, like that could be the catalyst to get us up and make a new high. So that's why that level is very important to me. Any questions? I know everybody here probably gets that, but I might make this public. So, what?
I had a similar idea of the SFP into that key.
Yeah, that's a big level. Like that, arguably, like that's a big level. And I think that if we see any weakness under here, meaning we don't see the SFP, we see acceptance under here, odds are very, like at that point we're gonna come back and test. So this, right, this is the macro range low. So there's pretty good levels below that. I wouldn't want to see too far below this. I really wouldn't want to see like too far below, but this does. So again, like the measure move that I talked about off of this potential descending triangle that hopefully we start seeing a lot of people recognize, because that would be really good in my opinion if people are like actually trading that. But that puts you literally right back here. So that would be nice. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like you see, there's even an anchored view app coming in at 2028. It's like, you know, by the time, hopefully that if this even played out, wouldn't be too surprising to see this also come up, give you a bit of confluence there. But yeah, that's kind of what I would be looking for. And like what I would say is again like why you don't like why I would say like why I don't preset bids like if I'm looking to trade this SFP, right? If I'm assuming that like there's reasonable shot that we're actually going to come back and take this low out again and give like the second SFP that I talked about earlier. If that's not an SFP and we end up having like a pretty big nuke, like imagine going long here, presetting, and then waking up and seeing it here, right? And then at that point, you're in a big loss, praying to bull Jesus to get you out of there, and that this is going to be the major low. But then if this doesn't, you understand what I'm saying? It's usually not a great idea. Anytime that you're trading SFPs, again, this is just my opinion, but like to me, that's a reaction trade. I never try to preset anything in the order book because that can happen, right? You can't assume. Like we could see the thing is if you're gone for the day, like there could be significant weakness that comes into this level as well. That would maybe have given you a heads up that this is unlikely to be an SFP. So again, if you preset for that, you're asking for trouble. And again, you can see very big moves off of losing major supports, right? Or resistances, like to like the flip side of that. So anyway, so yeah, we closed above that weekly, which is really good. Arguably, it's good. If you go on like any decent time frame, this technically, so like if you go down to like 12-hour even, like this level, I'm just gonna make this. I mean, I'll just mark it as a SFP. But like, what's not great about this, if I'm like just thinking out loud, is that on higher time frames. So like this didn't. If you go down to like a 5-minute, okay, like price chopped around here pretty considerably for a while. So like you're not necessarily thinking SFP necessarily on like this kind of time frame, right? But you go into like any larger time frame, like even this one, kind of not so much. Like here, 12-hour, you can see that we basically ran this high, and then what do you see here, right? Ran the high, pulled back, still resistance, literally exact, right? Which gave you that. So that's your golden pocket, and this old high, which is why like those levels are important. They're still very relevant. It basically flipped that into it's still resistance. So arguably that's not great. That's not fantastic, but it's not enough for me to say, oh shit, that's it, pack it up, we're going to zero. Right? But locally here, and I'm talking about high time frame now, or a higher time frame than I talk about in Discord more frequently. Like it seeing this, it wouldn't be too surprising to get a bit of a larger pullback. Do we pull back all the way again? Like, so you look at where the point of control is around 28. I mean, you can pull fibs. I think this is a very relevant fib. It's basically 50% reacher. So like the fib to me lining up very, very nicely, by the way. If this trend, right, if this impulsive leg that we got coming out of this retest, well, it's not, it's actually deviation, but like we remember 25.2, very important range that we spent all of this time in, right? So your range high was around 25,200. Like, if this impulsive move is gonna get continuation to a lot higher targets, arguably, again, if you go back to the fib videos, this is the level that you really want to see held. Which to me, very good confluence with volume in this range, very good confluence with this key level, which again is your macro range low that I talked about. If we come down into this level, would be really cool to see this actually flip into support. See that happen, I get way more bullish, like incredibly bullish. if we get that. If this breaks down, you have some supports below that arguably like would be okay. 50% retrace in the point of control, kind of like looking at where this area was. We just blasted right through it. And this is kind of like your last resistance area, which again, point of control, not that surprising. But this is like your last resistance area before you made this low, right? That we've pushed out of. So coming back to retest this would be acceptable. And another area that I would be interested in looking for along there. Anything that's really below this though. Yes, we have the golden pocket there. Yes, obviously 618 at 27.3, so around 27k, 27.3. But in my opinion, like if there's a decent enough reaction here, so hypothetically, let's say that like we did come down to this level and we were not showing any kind of strength around these levels, right? So like what I would say is between these fibs, and it's and like they line up very nicely with other confluence areas, okay? What I would say is that it's unlikely that we just, although it's possible, it's unlikely that we just do this. We just nuke straight down. Now, what I'll say is that you look at the move up, very, very quick. Not a lot of support really was built up on this move. It was like a very impulsive move. So the down on this could be equal. If I saw that, to me, that would be very bearish. That would be very bearish if that was to happen. What I think if we do come down as deep as 27, I think it's going to be a lot more structured. That's my guess. Which, again, would give you a lot of intraday setups to play along the way if that does happen. But I don't think that's... I would say it's not... So it's less... It's not like my most likely outcome, if I'm being honest. That's not like what I would... Like what I'm kind of looking for. But again... Holding this level would be very good if we even come down here. So I don't want to sound hyper bullish or anything like that. But if we came this low, this is like I would be looking for a reaction, at least a reaction off of here of some sort. Show any weakness back below here. And then, yeah, I mean, kind of again, fibs, like the 50% retrace has really nice confluence there, especially being back kind of where this last kind of like swing high was before this big impulsive move that never really got retested on higher time frames. But logically, again, you lose this, you kind of are looking here. So I would, again, to me, the easiest, best case scenario for bulls is if this is a line in the sand. If this level gets held, we show strength here. I think that there's very good opportunity to make new highs. If this level folds, essentially, especially if we don't see any support here, which I think is unlikely, but again, if we don't see any support here, then I'm less bullish. So hopefully that makes sense. Try to give some higher time frame context to like what we've been talking about. Any questions? I gotta turn up my speaker a little bit that way because I have it coming through my microphone. That way anybody who's watching the replay can hear you guys too. So, and then there's this. I don't know. Again, this is we were laughing about this on Friday because I don't have no idea when I drew this. But it's looking pretty good. It would be hilarious if this actually played out. I don't know if it will, but I don't know how I did that. Like what made me think that? Because I would love to go back and see like what the hell made me think that like we were gonna make some kind of like massive cup and handle. Again, I'm not a big pattern trader. Don't really like it that much. Like patterns in general, but I have no idea why I did that. That's pretty funny. But yeah, so funny enough, like the levels here are a lot more well defined. I should have probably used this chart. Than the one that I just did. Like they're way more well defined. But again, I think like as long as we hold, like definitely as long as we hold this level, I'm like on the bullish side. You start to lose this again. The nice thing, I mean, having Ichimoku right here too is like you're getting a bullish recross. Like you're getting like a bullish TK cross right here, right? So, I mean, again, like that looks pretty good. The 2-day, is this the one that I want to use? Let me look here. Um, let's use this one. So this is the one I talked about on Friday. Um, this is the one that I talked about on Friday, which is basically it's your 2-day Ichimoku. So let me look at 3-day because did we get a new candle? Oh, it's still inside. That's funny. So like that's what I wasn't. It was barely any room. We're gonna get. When is this candle? Today. So funny enough, like this is going to break outside of the 3-day cloud. Finally, like the last time price has been above cloud is literally back here in 2021. That is the last time price has been above cloud. And like you look at this point, it was already like nuking pretty good, right? Like you had lost your TK supports, cloud supports, like it was definitely coming down by then. But I'm just pointing out the last time that we've actually had price above cloud, way back here. This is a major change in my opinion. But yeah, we get a new candle and like at the end of the day today, which is cool. And we'll be outside of the cloud. Um, Funny enough, like we got like on this, you got your edge to edge, right? That you're looking for. TK cross, price inside of cloud. I here we were really like I was really wanting to see like you needed like $800 more to hit the top of cloud. So close. Got the pullback, didn't even get your Kijin retest. So this is when BlackRock, right? The whole BlackRock ETF news came in, which by the way is like very big news. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's probably already heard by now. But that's pretty substantial. And I'm gonna go on record again. I said this on Friday. I'm gonna say it again. If we didn't get BlackRock's, like if we didn't get that BlackRock news, very likely, in my opinion, we would have come down lower. We would have probably come down to this monthly, which like would have been that alone would have been like a pretty nice trade. I was like looking for that level. Would have been great. But BlackRock, obviously, big news came in. Market pumped a ton, rightfully so. And here we are. So like you finally you got your edge to edge hit, which is not like a very normal place to get the top of your cloud hit. But look, I mean that's literally the resistance, right? You zoom in. So hit the edge of cloud, backed off a bit. We will get a new opening candle here in 3 hours and 40 minutes, and we will be outside of the cloud. So that's the 3-day. 2-day to me, I'm gonna do the same thing that I talked about. I'm gonna do the same thing that I talked about on Friday. Let me delete some stuff, kind of like clean this up a bit. This isn't really relevant at the moment. This isn't relevant at the moment. Just delete this stuff. Not really relevant. So 2-day has been trending very nicely. If I'd pick a time frame, so my 3 favorite time frames, which I say over and over and over again, 12-hour, daily, and 2-day. The 2-day, fantastic. So you basically again got price got outside of cloud, broke outside here. Look at the move, right? So once you got your 2-day closure outside of cloud, massive move to the upside. Cloud's been bullish for a long time. So that gave you really nice move up into this high. The thing that I noticed right away that's of interest to me is the Kijun, which to me is always the level. So this is your mean reversion play. All right. Price again makes a high, which is what? This level. That is your range high of this range that we put in. Range high pulls back to your 2-day Kijun. Big move to the upside. Obviously, broke above cloud. Where does it pull back to again? 2-day Kijun. Another big impulsive move to the upside. I don't think that we're probably, well, unlikely, possible of course. I don't think we're gonna see the Kijun again anytime soon. Like you can do something again. This is not like I'm just illustrating a point, but I'm not saying that like, oh, in exactly this amount of days I'm gonna be buying again. But you can look, well, it's actually back here. It took 88 days. 88 days to come back into equilibrium. Price comes in, big, it's like a giant rubber band, right? Big, expansive move. Comes back to equilibrium again. Nice support. Big move. New highs. Structurally, by the way, this structure is really good. Low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Now I went into like that we also ran this high and haven't really shown any substantial any kind of strength above this, right? But we still made a new high. So also when I see that, more in the bullish camp, right? Like market structure on its own is bullish. There's no reason to like be massively bearish here. I think if you shorted like that 31K when you had that nice confluence there, that's a great trade, right? Obviously hindsight looking back, that was a great trade, but like that was a good trade to take. That's like the short trade in my opinion. But on the higher time frame, like structure still looks good, like as long as really like you're above 24, you know what I mean? Like we could pull back here and and come and make another higher low at some point, and it wouldn't do anything to violate this trend. So the point I'm making here, 88 days between Kijun retest, it could like, it's probably, this isn't something that's now, if this happened in like this week, I'd be incredibly concerned because that means we will literally have nuked all the way back down here, right? Like that would be pretty concerning that if like we retrace this entire move that quickly. But what I'm saying is over time, over the next few months, or as an example, assuming like structures similar, that type of stuff, is like at some point like price will absolutely 100% guaranteed come back into this Kijun at some point. It could take 2 months, it could take 6 months, it could take a year, I don't know, it could take but at some point I guarantee you this will happen. Price will come back into this Kijun, depending on what it looks like as it comes into here. Like I will tell you, this is, for myself, this is already a reason to bid. So this is showing you a pretty nice mean reversion target. It's showing you that there's activity, that there's demand at these areas. Not a bad area to look at. Again, how we come into that level, somewhat relevant. Again, like if we come into this level anytime soon, there's like, I probably won't be interested in wanting to try to catch a knife there unless it lined up with something else on lower time frame. But like, assuming this takes another couple of months, something like that, and we get, say we get continuation to the upside and then we get that pullback into that level, that is absolutely something that I'll be looking at, especially if there's really nice confluence with something else, which by the way, like what did you have confluence here? And it kind of gives it away with the SR level here, but like what did you have here? That's the top of the range. That's the top of the old range. And then we spent a couple days deviating below that, right? And then again, BlackRock, boom. So again, nice area. You got a big wick, you got a pretty good sized wick here, but closes basically at Kijun, big move. So definitely an area of interest. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. But no questions?
Yeah, pretty understand.
Pretty straightforward, right? So again, like especially when you're using higher time frame Ichimoku, it's gonna take time. That's one thing that you're gonna have, is you're gonna have a lot of time to be in these trades, and you're just gonna have to basically sit on your hands. You know what I mean? It just takes a while. If you're trading on 2-day time frame, there's not a ton of trades to be had. So basically, I'm going to go back to this. See, nothing. I mean, yeah, this is nothing. I don't really have too much to say. Too much to say about this right now. Locally, let's go to ETH BTC. This is one that's really interesting. This is crazy. So we turn off VWAP. Don't need to look at that. So this is basically looking at obviously how Ethereum directly is performing versus Bitcoin. The lower ETH BTC goes, the less the worse off ETH is versus Bitcoin. Higher ETH BTC goes, ETH is the better play. And ETH very clearly has not been the better play for a while now versus BTC. We're losing a major level here. So this is again something I talked at length about on Friday, but we're losing a pretty major level here. This is the range value area low. By the way, this is your golden pocket from low to high, right? Came right back into this region where your value area low was, gave you a nice bounce. But now lost volume support. What happened yesterday? You basically flipped that into resistance, right? So what is this telling you? Expect more weakness on ETH versus Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up 10%. ETH probably still going to go up, but unlikely to outperform Bitcoin. That's simple. Where am I interested in ETH? Like right off the bat, the green zone, it's been there forever. You look at the red zone, you look at the green zone. I mean, we've been in this range. I'll do this for fun. But I mean, we've literally been in this range for 782 days, okay? You're talking like 2 years of being in this range. So I can't get overly bearish ETH. If we come back into this region again, would be really interesting to see a reaction out of here. Any lower that we get on ETH, and I mean any lower than that, if we do come all the way back down anywhere around here, which like to me, I'm not even going to spend any time talking about these levels, like not much time, because we're still really far away from that. But I think that's probably a massive opportunity if we do come into these levels. So first level of interest is this zone again, basically coming back where we were a year ago, basically a year ago, and seeing again, do we form some kind of bottom here? If we lose this low and come even lower, I will be very excited and waiting, essentially, because I think at some point ETH is gonna have a very substantial rally versus Bitcoin. Again, if we see any of these lower levels, I'll be very excited. Just leave it at that. But it's irrelevant to today. The only reason that I'm bringing this up again on Friday, when we were looking at this, right, it was literally this down candle, and I was like, be very careful, because like we're starting to lose like relatively important support, and now all we did was confirm that. So until we maybe this ends up being some kind of deviation below your multi-year value area low. But if we do start to push up and reclaim this, the ETH could be poised to have like a really nice squeeze versus BTC. So that's I would be paying a lot of attention to that, especially if Bitcoin's doing well, right? Like that means ETH, essentially how I look at that is like ETH is ready to catch up. And by catching up, it could be substantial. Like you could see a very, very nice move. So I would definitely be paying attention to this. I would say that it's pretty clear to me. Like you look at where support was, right? Comes down, very clear support, very decent reaction off of that. And now what was once support is now resistance. So all you're waiting for really is this going to come back up and start to get back into this range, right? Get back into this volume range, essentially. Like, are we going to flip this back into support? Does this end up being some kind of deviation? Kind of like we saw at Bitcoin. Kind of like we saw with Link, right? So that's one we talked about on Friday. That was a good one. But basically, like, do we get some kind of deviation below here, and then you get a really big squeeze, essentially, like a really big rotation into ETH. Possible. But for now, that's not on the menu because we're very clearly showing, again, what was support, now lost, flipped into resistance. As long as we're below this level, there's no reason to not think that we're going to be heading lower until this level is at least reclaimed and we have a few opens and closes above it, something like that. But like this is probably going to be a little bit harder to trade, if I'm being honest. But that's what I'd be looking for. To me, the SR flip is very clear. So that's what I would be looking for there. Any kind of, again, like basically the lower that we get into these levels, the better for ETH long term, in my opinion, especially if you're really patient and we actually get these levels, which would be kind of surprising to me. I mean, anything down, I mean, I'm just like, if we get anything down to like these levels, it'd be insane. I'd be very, very happy. I mean, assuming like ETH just doesn't break, which, you know what I'm saying? It's unlikely, but you never know. Any questions on ETH BTC? Which, by the way, this is like pretty similar. Again, I kind of like, this is kind of similar to alts. There are some alts that are outperforming Bitcoin. You're always going to have a few. You're going to have some. You know, you're gonna have some crazy moves here and there, but for the most part, like I would say, it's gonna be a little bit more tempered, right? Unless, it's kind of like when ETH is doing really, really well, alts have a better shot at, like there's more risk on towards alts, right? But when it's Bitcoin's time to shine, that's kind of it. Like that's, you play the king and you like, that's where a lot of the focus, in my opinion, like a lot of the focus is kind of like easier trading. So yeah, kind of my thoughts. Any questions? These are quiet today.
What's the tech saying, sir?
What's that?
What's the tech saying?
Man, I'll tell you. So like, I'm gonna do this. Is this even the right one? Before I forget, because you're gonna remind me. So on ETH BTC, this is kind of what I would be looking for. This. So when I talk about that deviation that is not happening yet, because it's very clearly resistance, this is kind of the move that I'm talking about to have ETH catch up to BTC. So this is actually a good point. Dave reminded me of that, like of looking at Link. But what I will say is that you have this range low, okay? Very big level. You look at this range that we've been in here. Funny enough, same shit, right? Same as ETH BTC. I don't think not as long, half as long, 411 days, whatever. We spent well over a year in this range, and it gives you this. The moment that it starts reclaiming this range low, that all day long is the trade. Like you gotta get long there, all day long. It is literally the same thing about like this is on a smaller scale. Also, what Bitcoin did, which obviously the whole market had the benefit of the BlackRock announcement, right? But Bitcoin had a short deviation below the range high that we spent a ton of time on it, right? 25,200. So we got down to like 24.8, spent some time underneath there, and then boom, you look at the reclaim, you look at the reaction. Link is the same. When you have a very clear definitive range low on this key level, this 510 key level, which by the way, I will show you where I got that from. It's way the hell back here in 2019. That is literally this high. Look, so you look at this big consolidation. Like these are really big moves. And like funny enough, I didn't have Discord back then. We were in Telegram. Dave, we were in Telegram back in these days, all right? But like we were trading the shit out of Link. I know that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have this high. This is literally this high that got put in 2018. Look at this. High, price comes up, respects it, right? This is a very important level. What happens? Pullback, breakthrough, 510, pullback, key level. This is why I like these key levels, okay? Comes back up, barely misses that, and then nukes. Funny enough, right? You don't actually take this high out. But this 510 level is this 510 level. And arguably, you look at where your deviation took place, you look at the reclaim, don't be shocked when you see that. If you see this happen on any chart, where you have macro levels coming into play that you've been waiting for a really long time, and you see a deviation of this magnitude, don't be shocked when you get a massive move. The flip side of what I'm trying to say is that when you see this and you have a bearish bias, lose it. Because you're probably going to get hurt. That's what I'm going to say. If you don't want to take the long, don't take the long, but don't short this. Be very careful about shorting this. Anybody shorting in this region, wrecked, murdered. Where are we finding resistance at the moment? Oh, that's weird, isn't it? Isn't that weird how that works out? You have your 416 day, however many freaking days it was, the value area low, and coming back these, what was once support, nukes down, you come back up and you're testing the underside of these supports, giving you the volume confluence, and this is where we're having a bit of difficulty on lane. Not surprising. So do we get a bit of a pullback here? Yes. I would think, if anything, and that's what I will say. I mean, look at the charts. I mean, like, look at this, right? If Bitcoin is going to pull back, if ETH is going to pull back, is Link going to withstand? Is Link going to outperform? I would bet no. If anything, like, a lot of this stuff's probably going to have more substantial pullbacks than, you know, like your majors. For me, I would be looking for areas, right? Areas of interest. I would say that, like, this, you really, it's like you have this high. So again, just looking at candles, okay, you have this high of this move, you have this low of this crazy candle here before this massive move up. That's all coming right kind of around your 618. So would I be too surprised, again, if Link pulled back here and came into this zone? Not that I want a friggin' zillion boxes here, but I would say this is a pretty logical area to look for a bounce, right? But what do I want to see held? It's really the range low. Where am I wrong on this? There's no reason, if this deviation is gonna hold, and Link, like, that was the bottom on Link, that was your shot, right? There's really no reason to see this level get violated. And to be honest with you, probably don't really want to come that deep, I would say. Probably not. But this is kind of like this zone, which, I mean, I could just drag this down, but I was using candles. You kind of see how, like, I was using the wicks and candles, like I'm creating SR zones, like I like to do in video 3. I think video 3 it is, of support resistance. But I mean, your range low is literally right below that. So, like, you could, in this instance, probably extend that down a bit. And, like, this is really the zone that you want to see flip. Like, you want to see this turn into rock solid support. Don't really want to see back below that. Is that, at that point, would I be looking? So let's say that we had the new, you know, price worked its way down. This didn't hold a support. And then we flip, you know, again, range low into resistance. Like, this thing is probably going to make new lows, and it could make, like, pretty substantial new lows. So I would be careful about that. But anyway, any questions about this? This is a really good case study, in my opinion. And, like, when you're looking at range trading, especially on high time frames, I mean, you had a 416 day range that got put in. You have, like, a deviation of a 400-day range. You see the reaction. Where are you finding, like, this is, like, very, very good case study of this. And, like, this is acting the way that I would expect it to. So this is, like, a really good, again, like, if you didn't trade Link at all, the way, like, I'm going over stuff, talking through this, like, this will happen on a lot of different charts. You know what I mean? Like, any charts have been in, like, long-term ranges. That's like, this is literally what I would be looking for over and over and over again. Doesn't matter the asset. No questions?
Just listening.
Just listening?
Good. No, I'm watching too.
Okay. So I'm probably going to end my rant. I don't know how long I've been doing this. Probably an hour. Oh, no kidding, hour. Literally just past an hour. Wow. So I'm gonna do a little bit of traditional markets, and again, this is absolutely nothing has changed since Friday. Unfortunately, I didn't record Friday's session for those of you who are in here. I didn't record it, but nothing, absolutely nothing has changed. So I'll briefly go over it. Basically, we have a gap from our old range high, massive 4303 level that has been on my chart forever, right? I mean, again, another big range that we've been in. We broke to the upside. We actually, like, you look at this level, this, I remember perfectly here looking for a major move to the downside. I wasn't necessarily looking for like that far, but a sweep of these highs here. Look at all those wicks, right? We got that here. Couldn't show any strength above this. Also had your trend line, right? This is the third technical touch of your trend line here. Boom, nuked, major move down. We come back up to this 4303 level again. I mean, look how precise that is, which also, by the way, really good confluence with the golden pocket. But what did you have here? Gap up. On this level, usually pretty good sign of strength. Nice continuation. What I would have loved to, that would have like cleaned this up a bit for me, is on this rise here to come up to this 4530 level. So this monthly, which by the way is your 786 retracement. Nice confluence here to look at this particular level for resistance. Unfortunately, we didn't get that high. That would have been nice to come clean this up and then get the pullback, fill the gap, and try for another bounce there is my guess. The way that you gapped up, so again, coming back to this key level, range high, the way that you gapped up, I wouldn't be shocked if, I wouldn't be shocked if we're going to fill this gap. I wouldn't be shocked if we only got like a half fill. Meaning we only saw like a quick wick, like we don't get all the way down to 4303 and a half again, and then get a bounce. If this break is gonna, if basically we're gonna see continuation up to this monthly, in my opinion, really want to see bull step in at the latest back at this level. I would be kind of surprised if you got like a perfect gap fill, flip this into support, because this to me is a pretty substantial level. I would be surprised if we got like the perfect SR flip, right? I wouldn't really bank on that happening here. If this, as long as this level holds the support, I would be looking for this monthly to get taken out. We show, if we flip this monthly into support, don't show any weakness there, probably new all-time highs. So this thing will just probably keep going up to new all-time highs. If we lose this range high, so 4303 and a half, basically do something like this, right? Maybe we fill the gap, a little bit of a bounce, and then end up losing it. That to me, at a minimum, we're probably coming back. I mean, it's not like that big of a move, but I would at that point be looking for a move probably back to this trend line. So again, trend lines, but this one was phenomenal, right? We called, like, whatever, I say it all the time, like it's old news at this point, but these trend lines work pretty well, especially like trading traditional markets. They just have a tendency to work pretty well because a lot of people are looking at that. So you have two touches here coming in for the third touch, which again, if it came in reasonably over the next month or so, something like that, 3 weeks to a month, pretty nice confluence with the point of control, right? Like a lot of volume put in here. This would be another touch. Do we come here and then go? Now, I just did it to run out of room. I'm not expecting like a freaking giant candle like that or anything. Or do we come back down into this range, lose this trend line, right? That to me would show more weakness, and I'd be looking for a larger pullback at that point. So as far as ES goes, again, nothing super interesting at the current moment. Basically just waiting to see what happens here. I do think that we probably I do think that we probably come down a little bit more and at least do like a half fill. It doesn't have to fill the entire gap. We could come down and even just take this wick out, give us a little half fill, and then go. That to me would be pretty bullish. But I would love for this level, at least this monthly level, to get touched, to get cleaned up. If this is going to be major resistance, great. Then I would be looking for a pretty substantial pullback at that point. But again, if you flip this into support, you're looking probably new all-time highs. So this is what it is. The last thing I'll say before I flip to questions, or if anybody wants to look at anything else, is that there hasn't really been that great a correlation. Again, I went over this on Friday already. There hasn't been great correlation between equities and Bitcoin, and crypto in general. There are at some periods where they're kind of joined at the hip, and you can, I mean, if you're on low time frames, you damn well can trade. Like there's times where you can literally split your screen in half, have ES on one side, have BTC on the other, and you can literally trade Bitcoin based off of what ES is doing. There are times like that. This is not really one of those times, because I mean, if you look at what ES has done since it's put in this local high here, right? Been basically straight down. Like BTC was doing pretty well overall. Like hasn't been like too much change, I guess you could say. Like it's not, I would argue that it's like it's not even really worth paying too much attention to, like what ES is doing. Which, by the way, we just had a Monday, in case you're wondering. Like, so we just opened yesterday afternoon, right? So like Bitcoin has had a couple more candles than this. So don't forget that. Let's see here. I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions? I feel like I covered, like I wanted to stick more high time frame. Obviously I started with like the low time frame trading that we've been doing, like we did this morning in Discord. I wanted to make sure that I covered that for like replay purposes, but I wanted to stick mostly high time frame. Bottom line is, as long as, you know, for Bitcoin, we come back down to, you know, that level that I talked about, 28.8, 29K, something like that, that holds its support, looking for new highs probably. I don't see any reason why. Like, I think that's, you know, we show some continued strength. I really want to see that level hold though. But there's, I'll tell you, especially on alts, which I cannot believe. I swore that I would never ever trade it again, ever, but I was like trading Bitcoin Cash. What the, like, I swore I would never trade that, but I was trading it because it was moving a ton. So like, what I will say too, there's a lot of scalps. There's a lot of low time frame setups on Bitcoin, alts. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity everywhere. If you haven't been participating for whatever reason, and we kind of talked about this a little bit before I start actually like hit record on the stream, but if you're sidelined throughout this move, I would tell you that like there's probably, you have got to be finding an opportunity that fits obviously your risk profile, but like there's got to be a point where like you got to participate. We've seen a move 100+% off of the low already on BTC. We've seen a lot of boring periods, you know, a lot of tight ranges. We've seen a lot of crazy, like recent moves like we've had on BTC. There's been some really good opportunities for trading. Alts have done some crazy moves, both down and to the upside. Got to pick your spot. And don't be one of those participants that waits. And, you know, when we're 50, 60, 70K at some point, because I can almost guarantee that we will be at some point, right? Whether it's next year, later this year, 2025, I don't freaking know. I'm here for it. I'll be here. But I'm just saying, like, there's been a lot of pretty good opportunities, and like I myself haven't even done the best job of like taking advantage of like as many of the moves as I could, but I've been way more active trading, way more. So I encourage you to do so as well. Oh, Goosey asked about VIX. Yeah, VIX, I just mostly, for me, it's about levels. This big green zone right here, I mean, it's just mostly for me to get, it's just a gauge on where the market is essentially. And like, anytime really that the VIX has come down to like, these are very extremes, right? Like these are very, very big extremes. You look at a lot of these big spikes that you get, the only thing that I'm really looking for here is that is like the potential for a large spike to happen, right? Like that we're getting into extreme territory, and to be like, all this is telling me is to be aware, essentially. Like that's basically it. I've went over this before. Like, I mean, look at this, was COVID. The only reason I have this mapped out, which this isn't even really that, like, it's not even like really that critical or anything like that, but this is just like, if we ever see the VIX at 81 again, which we probably will at some point, you know what I mean? It could be freaking years and years and years, who knows? Like, all that's telling me is like, if I'm going through the charts and I see that, that's just a reminder to say, hey, like, pay attention. You're nearing you're nearing some ridiculous levels. Probably a good time to look for a play. That's all that is. That's kind of like what these key levels are. You can kind of see like where the spikes are. We get up to 48, which is like very high. It's just telling. I just have these levels set as like a reminder, saying like what do you see anything interesting in the market right now, that like, is there any positions that you might want to take? You get up at these ridiculous levels, it's like you're where it's like things are breaking, you know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, kind of the same thing here, although like you can see that this is much more the norm, right? But like here, so this, I'm glad I zoomed out, so like you can kind of see why this 48 level is relevant. Maybe I should go to like a weekly or something, although I feel like the daily is pretty good. But like here, like, so you can see kind of the range that I'm looking at. You're coming into what is major support, right? Telling you, hey, like, don't get too comfortable, right? You can spend a lot of time at these levels, but like, be prepared. Don't be lazy. Like, be like, are there positions that are of interest? And you can kind of see like when we're chopping around in between this range, not as much, you know, especially like when you're in, you know, kind of like this area, nothing like that, like super stands out to me. It says, hey, like we're nearing a really big potential pivot. Okay, so support saying be mindful of where we are, and we're coming into like extreme territory essentially. And then on the flip side of that, which, I mean, you can look at some of these like 2015. You remember 2015? You look at this COVID. Here is 2018. Which, by the way, what was crypto doing in February of 2018? Putting like getting fucking decimated. You know what I'm saying? So like this, like these major spikes, it's not like, I'm just saying there's usually stuff happening when you're hitting major levels like this. Like here, 2008. Okay, what was happening in 2008? Everybody here probably knows what was happening in 2008. What was happening in 2020? What was the market at? Where was the market at in like when VIX was on this rise, right? So all this is saying, you look at the difference. There was literally what, a 12-year gap between the last time that this 81 level was even visited. So down the road, if VIX hits 81, or, and as you can see, like this spiked above it, but you're getting into territory where you know that you're like, we are at extreme levels where things are breaking. It's, I mean, I don't want to say it, but like that's usually not a bad time to want to look to fade the crowd, to step, you know what I mean? So like, obviously, who the hell knows what's going to be happening the next time VIX hits 81? Will it ever hit 81 again? Yeah, I think it will at some point. But like, what, when it does, it could be a decade, right? That's just a level to, you look at that and say, you know, like go back and watch and like and look at market sentiment around these times, and you know what I mean. That's all. So anyway, not to get too much into it, but it's basically just that's essentially what I look at, like what I look at. That's probably a good way to end it. So hope everybody enjoyed it. If you need anything in Discord, obviously tag me, and you know, I hope that, like, again, if you've been sidelined, if you haven't been as active, I would encourage you to, like, there's a lot of opportunities, and I know that there are people in here that are actively trading, like that are in Discord, that are VIP, that are actively trading. And I think that they'll probably back me up on this. It's saying that there's been a lot of really pretty amazing opportunities recently. So don't forget about it. What I'd say. Like, there's definitely a lot of really phenomenal trades to be had. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Hope everybody enjoys their week. Again, I'll be in Discord. Need anything, tag me in there. I'm in there every day. And we'll see you in the next one.